Control. I remember starting it and thinking, okay, this looks interesting, but it just keeps getting weirder in the best possible way. You play as Jesse Faden, who walks into this super secret government building called the Federal Bureau of Control, and from there, things get strange. The whole game is set inside this massive, brutalist-style building called the Oldest House, and it's full of supernatural events, shifting walls, floating people. You've got this crazy service weapon that shifts between different forms, like a pistol that can turn into a shotgun or a sniper rifle. And then there's the telekinesis. Throwing objects at enemies with your mind never gets old. I remember picking up desks, chunks of concrete, even explosive canisters, and just launching them at enemies. It's so satisfying. And as you level up, you get more abilities like levitating, creating shields, and even mind-controlling enemies. It makes every battle feel dynamic because you've got all these powers to mess around with. The game also nails the whole mind-bending thing. The environments constantly shift and change. There's this one part, the ashtray maze, that had me completely blown away. It's like this surreal, almost psychedelic level where the walls and floors are shifting, and you're just flying through it, blasting enemies, while this killer rock soundtrack plays. So yeah, Control is one of those games that feels totally unique. It's got this perfect mix of supernatural weirdness, awesome combat, and a mystery that keeps pulling you deeper. Assassin's Creed Origins. It didn't win Game of the Year, but absolutely deserved to be in the conversation. After the series took a bit of a break, Origins came back swinging, and it basically reinvented the entire franchise. This was the game that moved Assassin's Creed from a more linear, mission-based structure to a full-blown open-world RPG, and it did it in style. First off, ancient Egypt as a setting? Incredible. The world they built in Origins was stunning, from the sprawling deserts to the bustling cities of Alexandria and Memphis. You could just wander around for hours, exploring tombs, pyramids, and hidden secrets. The amount of detail they put into recreating Egypt was mind-blowing, and it felt like you were actually stepping into history. Plus, playing as the first assassin was a breath of fresh air. He was such a well-rounded character, with a personal story that drove the whole plot forward in a meaningful way. The combat system was also completely overhauled. Gone were the days of just counter-killing everything in sight. Origins introduced a more dynamic, skill-based combat system that required you to dodge, block, and actually strategize during fights. It felt much more engaging and challenging compared to the older games. They also introduced RPG elements like leveling up, skill trees, and loot, which added a ton of depth to the gameplay. But here's the thing. 2017 was a ridiculously stacked year for gaming. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. This game is just pure fun. I thought Insomniac nailed it with the first game, but playing as Miles? It's like they cranked up the cool factor. From the moment you start swinging through the city, you feel that difference in Miles' style compared to Peter. He'd got that younger, more energetic vibe, and the way he moves those little spins and tricks mid-swing just makes it so satisfying to swing around New York. The story got so much heart. You can really feel the weight on Miles' shoulders, trying to live up to Peter's legacy, while figuring out what kind of Spider-Man he wants to be. He's got this personal connection to Harlem, too, and that adds a really nice, grounded layer to everything. It's not just about saving the city. It's about protecting his community, his friends, his family. I felt way more connected to his journey because of that. Plus, the combat is so slick. Those venom powers, absolute game changers. It never got old to just zap a group of enemies with a venom punch and watch them go flying, and combining that with his stealth abilities made for some really fun, creative fights. I'd go from sneaking around, taking out enemies one by one, to just leaping into the fray and unleashing chaos with his electricity. The combat just flows so well, and it's super satisfying to pull off those combos. Even though it's a shorter game compared to the first one, I honestly didn't mind. It felt like the perfect length for Miles' story, and I loved every second of it. Far Cry 4. It's one of those games that really sticks with you. Right from the start, you're thrown into this beautiful yet chaotic Himalayan country called Kyrat, and boom, there's Pagan Min, the villain you'll love to hate. He's charming in the most unsettling way, and I just couldn't get enough of his weird charisma. Honestly, he steals the show every time he's on screen. But beyond the story, what really drew me in was Kyrat itself. The world is just stunning. You've got these towering mountains, lush valleys, rivers, and temples scattered everywhere. I found myself getting lost in the world, not just doing missions, but just exploring, climbing cliffs, gliding off with a wingsuit, or hunting animals to upgrade my gear. It's one of those open-world games where every corner has something to discover, and it just makes the world feel alive. Now, the gameplay is so fun. You can tackle situations however you want, and for me, that meant switching between stealthy bow kills and, riding elephants into enemy outposts like a madman. Seriously, who doesn't love charging through a camp on an elephant? And the wildlife itself adds a whole other level of unpredictability. I've lost count of how many times I was sneaking up on an enemy, only for a tiger or bear to crash the party and wreak havoc. The missions are great too, especially the ones involving the Golden Path. You get to make decisions that affect the revolution you're part of, and they're not always black and white. I liked that it made you think about the consequences. All in all, Far Cry 4 is just packed with stuff to do. Mafia Definitive Edition. Alright, so I just finished this game, and honestly, I'm still processing how good it was. You know when a game just sticks with you? That's how this one feels. I've always had a soft spot for the original Mafia, but this remake? Wow, they really outdid themselves. It's like stepping into the 1930s for real. First off, the atmosphere. I don't know how they nailed the vibe of that era so perfectly. The city of Lost Heaven is just alive. Every little detail, from the cars to the buildings to the music, it really pulls you into that world. There were moments when I just wanted to drive around and take it all in, not even worrying about the mission at hand. Like, who knew 1930s radio stations would get me this hyped? And the story, it's not just a typical mobster narrative. You really get invested in Tommy Angelo's rise in the Salieri crime family. It's like playing through one of those classic gangster movies, but you're in control. I actually found myself sympathizing with him, which is wild considering, he's a criminal. But the voice acting, the facial expressions, it's all so believable. It draws you into the point where you care about these characters, even when they're making some seriously bad choices. Gameplay-wise, it's got that nice balance between action and story. Sure, there are shootouts and car chases, but I think what got me hooked was how well-paced it all felt. It doesn't rush you. The combat feels more polished this time around too. And the driving? I never thought I'd say this, but driving those old-school cars was actually fun. Hitman 3. Now this is a game that just gets the whole stealth genre right. I love how it puts you in the shoes of Agent 47, and suddenly you feel like this ultimate, cool-headed assassin. What makes it special is the freedom it gives you to approach every mission how you want. Like, you're dropped into these huge, intricately designed sandboxes, and then it's up to you to figure out how you're going to take down your targets. Do you go all stealthy, blend into the crowd, and take your time? Or do you throw caution to the wind, cause chaos, and improvise? Either way, it's a blast. The level design in Hitman 3 is just genius. I'm still thinking about the Dubai mission, starting at the top of that skyscraper. Looking out over the city from a literal cloud level, it's breathtaking. And then there's the Dartmoor level, which is like something straight out of a detective novel. You can actually pose as a detective investigating a murder while planning a murder. It's just so creative, giving you this puzzle box of opportunities to play around with. And there's always that moment when you figure out a crazy way to eliminate your target that feels so satisfying, like, I can't believe I just pulled that off. Another thing I love is how replayable it is. You finish a mission, and then you start thinking, wait, what if I tried it this way? Or, what if I used that secret passage I missed the first time? It's not about following some rigid plan. It's about adapting on the fly and making it work. Honestly, Hitman 3 is one of those games that I keep coming back to. It's smart, stylish, and just a ton of fun. Devil May Cry 5. This game is just pure action-packed insanity. From the second you start, it's all high-energy, over-the-top combat, with Dante, Nero, and V, just going off in their own badass ways. The combat is smooth as hell, and juggling demons in the air while pulling off combos? So satisfying. I mean, it makes you feel like you're some rockstar demon hunter every second you're playing. And can we talk about the characters for a second? Dante is, of course, the legend, and his attitude is just as cocky and hilarious as ever. But I gotta say, Nero's new arm mechanic is awesome. You can pull off so many different moves with his devil breakers, and it adds a whole new layer to the combat. I love how every arm has its own unique feel, whether you're blasting enemies or zipping around the battlefield. Then there's V. At first, I wasn't sure what to think of him, but his combat style is so unique. Controlling demons to do the fighting while you hang back? It's weird at first, but when you get the hang of it, it's pretty damn cool. He's like this mysterious, edgy dude, but in a fun way. The boss fights, though, incredible. Every boss has this epic scale to it, and the game is great at making each fight feel intense without being frustrating. And the way the music kicks in when you're doing well, that's gotta be one of my favorite parts. The dynamic soundtrack literally gets better the more stylish you get, so it's like the game is rewarding you for being awesome. Honestly, DMC5 has some of the tightest, most fluid combat I've ever played in an action game. Persona 5. Without spoiling anything, you play as a high school student with a secret double life. By day, you're navigating the trials and tribulations of school, classes, exams, and hanging out with your friends. But by night, you're a phantom thief, sneaking into mysterious realms to change hearts and fight evil. It's as cool as it sounds, trust me. The menus, the animations, even the transitions, everything feels like it was designed by someone with a passion for flair. Every little detail screams, we're going to make this look amazing, even if it's just a loading screen. And don't even get me started on the music. The jazzy soundtrack is the kind of thing you'll be humming for weeks after you play. And the gameplay. It's this perfect blend of turn-based combat and life simulation, and somehow it works beautifully. One moment you're strategizing in these gorgeous, surreal dungeons, pulling off stylish combos and unleashing your personas, which, by the way, are basically manifestations of your inner psyche. The next, you're deciding how to spend your free time. Do you study for your next exam, work a part-time job, or go out for ramen with your friends? The balance between these two sides of the game is just chef's kiss. What I love most, though, is how Persona 5 makes everything you do feel meaningful. Spending time with your friends, called confidants, isn't just fun, it also gives you bonuses in battle. Doing well in school or working a part-time job helps you build skills that open up even more opportunities. Even the smallest choices feel like they matter. Yakuza 6. This game throws you straight into the heart of Kamurocho and the serene beauty of Onomichi, blending the chaotic energy of urban life with the peaceful charm of a small seaside town. It's the kind of game that's packed with personality, letting you dive deep into a world brimming with colorful characters, wild side activities, and plenty of fist-flying action. The combat in Yakuza 6 is a thing of beauty. It's fast, fluid, and packed with over-the-top moves that make every punch and kick feel satisfying. Whether you're brawling with a group of street punks or taking on a tougher challenge in a back alley, the game gives you all the tools to dominate the fight. You can pick up just about anything in the environment, a bike, a sign, even a street cone, and use it to deliver bone-crunching hits that are as brutal as they are hilarious. The seamless transition into combat makes every encounter feel organic, keeping the pace high and the action engaging. Outside of the fights, Yakuza 6 is a playground of activities. This game knows how to keep you entertained when you are not chasing down objectives. There's a fully functional karaoke minigame that lets you belt out tunes in rhythm-based fun. You can hit up a batting cage for a quick home run derby, stop by an arcade to play classic Sega games, or even spend time managing your own cat cafe. Yes, a cat cafe. It's all about variety, and this game delivers in spades. One of the standout features is the Clan Creator mode. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It takes everything Call of Duty is known for, fast-paced combat, intense firefights, and cranks it up to the max. This game isn't just about quick reflexes. It's about living out those high-stakes, cinematic moments that you'd normally only see in movies. Modern Warfare 2 is probably one of the most memorable campaigns in the whole Call of Duty series. What I love about the campaign is how well it balances action with quieter, suspenseful moments. It's not just non-stop explosions and chaos, though there's plenty of that. There are also these more thoughtful moments, where you have to rely on stealth, tactics, or just careful observation. It's a cool change of pace, and it makes those big, explosive moments hit even harder. Plus, the story is packed with memorable characters. You'll see some familiar faces like Soap and Captain Price, and the chemistry between them is fantastic. It's like being in an action movie, where every character has their own vibe, and you end up feeling genuinely invested in what happens to them. This campaign is really clever about mixing things up, so you're never doing the same thing twice. There's a little bit of everything. Stealth missions, full-blown shootouts, and even some sequences that almost feel like puzzles, where you have to think about how to use the environment to your advantage. Every mission has its own personality, and each one is designed to keep you engaged and constantly adapting to new situations. It's the kind of game where you never know what's coming next. Alien Isolation. I don't think I've ever played a game that kept me on the edge of my seat like this one did. You know how some horror games throw constant jump scares at you? Not here. This one's all about that slow building tension. You're literally never safe. It captures that feeling of dread from the original Alien movie perfectly. And let me tell you, the atmosphere in this game is top tier. The space station is so incredibly detailed, like straight out of the 1970s vision of the future. It has that grimy, lived-in feel, which just adds to how isolated you feel. The lighting is phenomenal too. I remember creeping through these dimly lit corridors with shadows dancing everywhere. The vibe is so good, you just feel like you're there. And that's half the reason this game works so well. It makes you feel like you're in constant danger. I think one of the coolest things is that the xenomorph isn't the only thing you have to worry about. There's other stuff happening on the station, and it really creates this sense that the world is alive. Well, maybe not alive, but dangerous. I won't spoil anything, but let's just say, some of the other encounters are almost as tense as dealing with the alien itself. Alien Isolation isn't for everyone. If you don't like slower-paced games or being super stressed the whole time, maybe it's not your thing. But if you're someone who loves a good atmospheric challenge, and you appreciate a game that doesn't treat you like a kid, you're in for a treat. There's something incredibly satisfying about surviving an encounter with the alien. Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that absolutely dominated conversations when it came out, but somehow didn't win Game of the Year. And I get it, God of War was a beast in 2018, but let's be honest, Red Dead Redemption 2 was something else. This was a game that didn't just tell a story, it lived and breathed one. The world Rockstar created in Red Dead Redemption 2 was so immersive, it felt like the Old West was right there in front of you. And the detail? Insane. You could spend hours just wandering around, hunting, fishing, getting into random encounters. And every part of it felt like it was happening in real time. Rockstar nailed the atmosphere, from the dynamic weather to how towns felt alive. Even your horse had personality. People get so attached to their horses like it's a real companion. Now, the story is where the game really shines. Arthur Morgan? Easily one of the most complex, well-written characters in gaming. His whole journey of redemption, loyalty, and questioning his place in the gang gave players an emotional roller coaster. The game nailed that perfect blend of realism and fun. The way the world reacts to your choices, whether you're being honorable or wreaking havoc, makes every playthrough feel personal and unique. In the end, Red Dead Redemption 2 deserved all the praise and then some. It was more than just a game. It was an experience. The fact that it didn't win Game of the Year is still something people talk about, because it left such a lasting impact. Black Myth Wukong. You know, when I first heard about this game, I wasn't sure what to expect, but the moment I saw the gameplay, it completely blew me away. This game is such a breath of fresh air in the action RPG genre, blending Chinese mythology with some seriously stunning visuals. You can tell the developers at Game Science have poured their hearts into this project, and it really shows. The main thing that struck me was how alive the world feels. The environments are rich, almost dreamlike, with incredible attention to detail. Whether it's a dense forest or ancient ruins, everything feels like it has history, like it's part of this vast, mythical landscape. And don't even get me started on the creature designs. Some of these enemies look straight out of Legends, but with a fresh, modern twist that makes them both terrifying and beautiful. As Wukong, you have access to a lot of cool abilities. And it's not just about fighting. There's a real sense of strategy involved. You can transform into different creatures and use their powers to outsmart enemies, which adds such a dynamic element to combat. It's not just about mashing buttons, but thinking on your feet. Every battle feels intense, like you're actually facing off against these legendary foes. But it's not all about combat. The story itself seems to be really captivating, diving deep into the lore of Journey to the West. The way the narrative is woven into the gameplay with cutscenes and dialogue really draws you in. Dying Light: The Following. This expansion takes everything you love about Dying Light and cranks it up with a fresh, open-world vibe that feels totally different yet equally intense. It's a brilliant twist on the core game, throwing you into a sprawling countryside where the rules of survival take on a whole new dynamic. Gone are the tight, urban spaces of Heron. And in their place, you get wide-open fields, winding dirt roads, and eerie farmlands where danger feels like it could come from anywhere. The introduction of a customizable buggy is an absolute game-changer. This isn't just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. It's your lifeline in the countryside. Outrunning hordes of infected or plowing through them with your buggy's reinforced frame never gets old. The upgrade system for the buggy is incredibly satisfying, letting you equip things like flamethrowers, UV lights, and other tools of destruction. It adds a whole new layer to gameplay, making your vehicle feel like an extension of your survival toolkit. Exploration in the following feels different from the base game, thanks to the vast, open environment. You're encouraged to venture off the beaten path, and the world rewards your curiosity with hidden secrets, abandoned buildings, and challenges that keep you on edge. It's not just about scavenging for supplies. It's about adapting to this new environment and figuring out how to use its openness to your advantage. The countryside may look serene from a distance, but it's anything but safe. Combat remains as visceral and thrilling as ever. Dead Island 2. It's one of those games that after being in development for so long, you're just happy it finally exists. If you're into zombie games, this one is like a bloody sun-soaked vacation, where you can let loose and hack, slash, and smash your way through hordes of the undead. What's cool about it is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The game knows exactly what it is, a fun, over-the-top zombie slasher set in sunny California. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. First off, the setting is great. Instead of a gloomy, post-apocalyptic wasteland, Dead Island 2 takes place in a colorful, almost absurdly beautiful version of Los Angeles. They call it Hell A, and the contrast between the bright, glamorous world of Hollywood and the grotesque, decaying zombies is just awesome. You're running through luxury mansions, beaches, and fancy neighborhoods, all while the city crumbles around you. It's like you're on a demented version of a sightseeing tour. The zombies themselves come in all shapes and sizes, and they're not pushovers. You've got your standard walkers, but there are also faster, more aggressive types, like runners and screamers who can call for reinforcements. Some are armored, others are on fire or covered in acid, and each type forces you to adjust your tactics. It keeps you on your toes and makes the combat feel fresh. You're constantly adapting and finding new ways to take them down, whether it's by using environmental traps, setting them on fire, or just going for headshots. Sekiro. I went in this game expecting something similar to Dark Souls, but nope. Sekiro has its own thing going on. It's all about timing, parrying, and mastering patience. You can't just hack your way through this one, but when you finally land that perfect parry, or take down a boss that's been wrecking you, it's the most satisfying feeling ever. The combat is so tight and precise. I love how it's focused more on skill than stats. Every fight feels like a proper duel, especially with that posture system. Instead of just slashing away, you're breaking down their defense to land that killer blow. It's a challenge, but man, when you get the rhythm down, it's amazing. And that grappling hook, dude, it's such a game changer. You feel like a legit ninja, zipping around trees, rooftops, and sneaking up on enemies from above. I can't count how many times it saved me from getting killed. It just makes exploring the world way more fun. Speaking of the world, the whole setting in feudal Japan is stunning. The environments are so detailed, from peaceful bamboo forests to war-torn castles. Every area has this mysterious beauty to it. And as you explore, you start piecing together the lore, which is so From Software in the best way. Now, I won't lie. Sekiro is hard. It can be brutal, but in a good way. I've died more times than I care to admit, but each death feels like a lesson. You can't just rush in. You've got to learn your enemy's moves, find their patterns, and perfect your timing. And when you do, it's like reaching some kind of gamer zen. The Witcher 3. Blood and Wine. This expansion feels like a full-blown adventure of its own. The moment you step foot here, you'll notice how vibrant and distinct the region is, filled with rolling vineyards, colorful towns, and plenty of mystery lurking beneath the surface. Combat remains razor-sharp and strategic, with plenty of opportunities to test out different builds, potions, and tactics. The enemies in Toussaint are as unique as the land itself, with new creatures and foes that challenge your skills in fresh ways. Whether you're engaging in swordplay, using signs to control the battlefield, or preparing for a fight with meticulous planning, every encounter feels satisfying. Exploration in Blood and Wine is an absolute highlight. Toussaint is filled with hidden treasures, intriguing side quests, and areas that beg to be explored. From quaint villages to ominous ruins, each location feels handcrafted and packed with detail. Taking the time to wander off the beaten path often leads to some of the game's most memorable moments, and the world rewards curiosity at every turn. One of the standout features here is the attention to customization. Blood and Wine introduces new armor sets, upgrades, and even a personal vineyard that you can enhance. It's a small touch, but it adds a layer of connection to the world. Toussaint is a land that feels alive, brimming with charm, danger, and opportunities to immerse yourself in its world. It's the kind of expansion that reminds you why The Witcher 3 is considered one of the best RPGs ever made. Hellblade 2. The first Hellblade was all about that raw, emotional journey and its deep dive into mental health. So when the sequel came out, a lot of people were expecting the same kind of intimate experience. And while it definitely delivers on atmosphere and emotion, not everyone's on board with some of the changes. One of the big things people are talking about is the shift towards more combat. In the first game, the fighting was kind of secondary to the story. It was there, but it wasn't the main focus. With Hellblade 2, they've definitely ramped up the action, and some fans aren't too happy about that. They wanted more of those quiet, introspective moments that made the first game stand out. But honestly, I think the combat adds a new layer of intensity. Sure, it's more frequent, but it's still tied to Senua's emotional journey, and it makes sense within the context of the story. Another thing that stirred up some controversy is whether the game leans too heavily into its cinematic elements. There's a lot of visual spectacle in Hellblade 2. The graphics are insane, and the world building is next level, but some players feel like it's trying to be more of a movie than a game, which has rubbed a few people the wrong way. I get that, but at the same time, this is what Hellblade is all about, immersing you in this visceral, haunting world. What I love, though, is how Hellblade 2 stays true to its roots. Despite all these changes, it still tackles heavy themes like trauma and mental illness, and it does it with a lot of care and respect. That alone makes it stand out in today's gaming landscape, and even with more combat. Final Fantasy XVI. I wasn't sure what to expect going in because the series has gone through so many different styles, but this one really grabbed me right away. First off, the story got this darker, more mature vibe compared to some of the other Final Fantasy games. I love how it dives deep into political drama, with all these nations fighting over the power of the Eikons. It feels like you're watching this epic medieval fantasy unfold. And speaking of Ikonso, man, those battles are insane. You've got these massive cinematic showdowns between these godlike creatures. The scale of it all is just jaw-dropping. Plus, the real-time combat system. It's smooth, it's fast, and it's so satisfying when you pull off these combos and juggle enemies mid-air. I think that shift away from the turn-based combat really helps the game feel fresh, you know? Now, the world of Valisthea is stunning. Everywhere you go, the landscapes just pull you in. From vast deserts to lush forests, it's one of those worlds that begs to be explored. I found myself constantly stopping to just take in the view. The towns and cities feel lived into each. One has its own vibe, and I loved talking to NPCs and learning more about the world's lore. Plus, the side quests, they actually have depth. It's not just go fetch this or kill that, but instead, they give you more context about the world and characters, which I always appreciate. I think the only thing that threw me off at first was how different it feels from classic Final Fantasy games. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a game that somehow managed to take everything magical about Breath of the Wild and just amp it up to 11. Right off the bat, I've got to say the world is absolutely breathtaking. They've kept that stunning, painterly art style that's somehow both cozy and epic at the same time. You get these incredible sweeping landscapes, misty forests, hidden caves, and yes, floating islands in the sky. The verticality is on another level, and it makes exploring feel fresh and new. Climbing up mountains and discovering secret paths high above Hyrule is so rewarding. You feel like an adventurer, just setting off with nothing but curiosity as your guide. One of the best parts of Tears of the Kingdom is how it encourages creativity. It's not just about following a set path or checking things off a list. You can go wherever, tackle objectives in whatever order you like, and use all sorts of fun mechanics to solve puzzles or defeat enemies. I found myself thinking outside the box constantly. The game rewards you for being inventive, and every time you pull off some crazy solution, it's like, whoa, I actually did that. The physics, the way you interact with objects, even how you use Link's new abilities. It all feels like Nintendo wanted you to experiment and have a blast doing it. And let's talk about those new abilities. Without spoiling anything, I'll just say that Link's got some seriously cool tricks up his sleeve. These aren't just fun gimmicks. They totally change how you approach the world. Remember the excitement when you first learned to climb anything in Breath of the Wild?